Hello and welcome to the coronavirus update for the 1st of May, May Day 2020, where there are 3 million, just over 3 million cases in the world, almost exactly a third of them in the United States, 1 million in the United States, and a 250,000 people, just over, have sadly died from this worldwide. It is about, just divide those two, it's about 7% or something. And today, mostly what we're going to be focusing on is some of the dumb things that Elon Musk has said about this. Not just the ones that have aged badly like this, but how he constantly manages to say stupid things about the coronavirus. Anyway. Another thing that I want to cover at some later point is all these people basically blaming China and how they all have this great in-depth knowledge of some virus research lab where they actually have the exact account of when a bat urinated on someone's hand. And no. Virus coming out of a virus research lab. Yeah, this is kind of possible. They go out and they collect viruses and they sequence their genomes and all that sort of thing. But a virus research lab, no one researches trying to weaponize viruses for a couple of obvious reasons. First, we have nowhere near the technology to do that. And secondly, these conspiracies only emerge. You scroll back the Wayback Machine to the earliest recording they have of the John Hopkins virus website, which is about there, 10th of March or something. And no one really cared because it was almost exclusively a China problem, right? Just so you know, this is China here, this line here. This is recovered people, the green line here. And this is cases everywhere else in the world. So, you scroll the clock back to this sort of point where, they're a little smattering in America. No one was looking to blame China for this because it was a China problem. People only sort of started worrying about it when, let's be real. Once the world looks a little bit more like this, and, this is the China spread down here, and this is everywhere else in the world. Yeah. Anyway, so when was Elon saying that the coronavirus panic is done? This was almost exactly a month after I sort of looked at the China numbers and made the prediction that you can contaminate the entire world in about a month with this virus. Sorry, 2 months. And that's March 6th. When's that? That's about here. Actually, that's not far off. Here, right? I mean, for me, I was immediately skeptical about all of these numbers very early on. It's very hard to accurately test the virus. Later on you get better at it, but you can probably add a 0 onto all of these numbers, which means that at the time 10,000 cases in the US, 90,000. Yeah, early on, there's a lot more cases than you know about. That's really not the time to be saying that it's done. And later on, what was he saying? This is 2 weeks later, on the 19th of March. Where are we at, the 19th? It's about there. So, all right, the number of viral cases in the world has tripled since Elon Musk said the whole coronavirus panic is dumb. And now what's he saying? Something very strange is going on with the numbers. China says no new cases. People are running a scenario saying 10 to 100 million dead. Actually, I was doing that over a month before this. Italy is in chaos, but deaths are leveling out. Don't believe a word of it. Let's go take a look at Italy's deaths for... What was his date again? The 19th of March. 19th of March. It's about there. Okay. Leveling out my arse. Anyway, okay. So let's see. This is the great insight from. Well, he's a blue check mark, whoever he is. Korea, China, and Singapore are back to normal in 6 to 8 weeks. Yes, after mass testing and tracing of cases. To which Elon says, exactly, my guess is the panic will cause more harm than the virus if it hasn't happened already. Yeah, this, bear in mind, is I've lost the original cases. I'm going to have to refresh to get it for the world. But basically, Elon said it would the panic was done when there were 100,000 cases in the world. There are now 300,000 cases in the world. And he's saying, nah, panic's more of a problem. Okay, he then scroll the clock forward back to he's going to be retweeting these doctors who say some really dumb stuff. And this was a month later, right? A month later. And where are we at? We're at April 20th. It's up here somewhere. Okay, 2.5 million cases in the world. So 20 times more cases in the world since he said the whole thing was dumb. And he's retweeting these doctors. And these doctors, it's like I was saying, I am so immediately skeptical when someone who makes a point of saying that they're a doctor and wearing doctor garb comes up with a numerical. These are not really the people that I trust to, the guy I trust to do the analysis is more the sort of pencil neck geek who's actually got sort of sifted through the numbers, right? And people who are presenting themselves to be conspicuously hospital workers, I mean, it looks like they're playing the part, but they really have the experience to do numerical analyses. Anyway, so the thing is that they'd found some study which said that one place in California, 40% of the people had antibodies or something like that, and only a tiny fraction of it died. And from this, they concluded that it was less hazardous than the flu, and that therefore we ought to just basically open up as normal. Now, there's a slight problem with that. And I mean, the first one is you just take a look at the confirmed cases. All right, these are confirmed cases and the total deaths, and you get a fatality rate of about 7%. Okay? They're claiming that it's 0.1%. It's a factor of 70 difference there. Basically, they were coming to the conclusion of one study in one place in America that said that something like 90% of people were asymptomatic, and some huge fraction of Americans had already had it, extrapolating to the whole country, and that therefore everything was done based off one tiny study in California. Now, the problem was that almost every other study that's been done says it's about 30% of coronavirus cases are asymptomatic. They were basically going and saying that, it's 99% are asymptomatic. Okay, based on one study. You're going to gamble, taking Trump's numbers, that if all the other analyses are correct, it's going to be about 2 million dead. And if these people are right, it's going to be 100,000 or something. Maybe we should take a look at another study before listening to these people saying that it's all dumb and we should reopen everything. Anyway, so I'm not the only one who had issues with this. So there are a bunch of institutes here who I don't know anything about. But whatever. The American College of Emergency Physicians and the American Academy of Emergency Medicine joined in emphatically condemning the recent opinions these two doctors as reckless and untested musings do not speak for medical societies and are inconsistent with current science and epidemiology regarding COVID-19. As owners of blah, 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 two individuals are releasing biased, non-peer-reviewed data to advance their own personal financial interests without regard to the public health. Okay, that's pretty harsh. What does Elon Musk have to say about this? Docs make good points. And this is one of the bizarre things. If you actually click on this, it's now been removed by YouTube for violating, presumably giving people advice that will kill them. Now, it's actually an interesting one that, where do you draw this line on giving people advice that will kill themselves? I mean, you might remember on my main channel some time ago, there was a guy called the Crazy Russian Hacker who was basically advocating making a carbon dioxide air conditioner. Until I pointed out, actually, no, you do that sort of thing, you can kill yourself quite easily. And in fact, there was a case relatively recently, earlier this year, where some people had thrown a load of dry ice into a swimming pool and managed to kill a couple of their number. One of them was an Instagram star, and they actually managed to kill themselves. So it's one of these things that giving people advice, YouTube in that case, they didn't take down his video, even though he was kind of giving people advice that would, could lead to them dying. But, you could make the same argument. Where do you draw the line? If someone is giving you advice about smoking, well, that can kill you as well. And, smoking does kill, what is it, about 6.5 million a year or something in America? Where do you draw the line? It's an interesting question. But, because this is all happening at once, YouTube seems a lot more hawkish about this, which I guess is sort of fair enough. But there's also one of these things that, what about if someone was advocating faith healing? This is, again, it's giving you advice that'll get you killed, or homeopathy, or crystals, or goop, or any of these other things. They're all things that have health detriments. It's just they're much harder to quantify. And, deep down, I suspect that if global warming, happened as quickly as the coronavirus, maybe you would get similar sorts of things. But, well, I mean, even at this, right, there's enough people who say that global warming is all a hoax and a conspiracy. We've now got the same folks out, protesting the coronavirus. Mostly fueled on, well, not mostly, but fueled on by people like Elon Musk saying, "Free America now." This is now on the 29th. Oh, just look at it go. Look at it go. 63,000 retweets. And the interesting thing is also backed up here by some, MAGA-wearing, 250,000 followers, conservative Trump publican, wife, mother, Most High God, child of Most High God. Oh, isn't that nice? Anyway, what has she got to say? The scariest thing about the pandemic is not the virus itself, it's seeing Americans so easily bow down and give up their blood-bought freedom to corrupt politicians who promise them safety. To which Elon Musk replies, "True." Now, okay, let's take the Trump publican, the Trump appraisal of the expected virus death toll if he did nothing, which is about 2 million. And compare this to the blood-bought freedom. Okay. How many wars has America fought? Well, it fought the War of Independence, which was basically about the right of America to run its own businesses, pay its own taxes rather than paying them to someone thousands of miles away. There's some logic to that, kind of a tax dispute thing, but the War of Independence was well fought. I mean, it turns out that even at the time, about half of the Americans at the time wanted to side with the British, who were at the time basically the superpower of the day, and half wanted to become their own country. Okay, so that one was well fought. Then there was the next one, which was the Civil War, which was almost the reverse, that you don't have the right to become your own nation and, have slavery in it. Well, one was basically fought for independence. The other one was to stop people from. There's some conflicts here. But anyway, so let's take maybe the next one, which is World War II. Greatest generation fought in World War II. How many Americans actually died in World War II? This blood-bought freedom. Well, turns out America, where's America? United States. So America had almost, you've got two columns here. You've got deaths by military deaths and total civilian and military deaths. So for America, they're basically the same. America lost almost no civilians in World War II. Whereas if you take a look at Russia, they lost 10 million. Right? America, 500,000. Russia, 10 million, or Soviet Union. And as many again, half the people who died in World War II were Russians. And even Germany was 6 to 8 million total deaths. So the blood-bought freedom of the greatest generation was about 500,000. And, the Trump projected, if we did nothing, was 2 million, which is probably in the right ballpark. And, just to throw this all into harsh perspective, some of the deaths in Russia, siege of Leningrad. They lost 1 million people in Leningrad, which is almost as many as all of the Allied military losses put together. The Russians lost that in one siege. In fact, it wasn't just that. Let's go back to the map of the world, actually, for a second. Right? So, so some interesting things about World War II. This is going to be a bit of a tangent, but whatever. So you got Germany here and France here, and people always give France a load of crap for, cheese-eating surrender monkeys and all that sort of thing. But, I mean, the simple reality is the distances here are tiny. You take a look at how long it takes to get from, the border here to Paris. It's a couple of hours drive, right? Bear in mind, this is all on roughly the same scale. You come over here to America, and it's not that far off the drive from sort of Boston to New York or something. These are tiny distances. And so a lot of, what saves America in almost every instance, the reason no one's ever invaded America is because it's impossible. The resources that you would need to invade a country this size are sort of almost comparable to invading Russia. Now, even if there was no resistance whatsoever, when Germany at the time had basically come up to the Polish border when they were invading Russia, they had about 3 million men here. 3 million men. That's three big cities worth of soldiers, all geared up and ready to go. One of them goes north, and they end up in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, where, the siege of Leningrad lost 1 million people for Russia. The main army came in towards Moscow, Army Group Center, and the other one went, south. And they ended up about here. Now, just to move, that alone, moving 3 million men, I forget what it is. It's like 1,000 miles or something. I mean, it's like taking 3 decent-sized cities and moving them over here somewhere, roughly in American terms. And in the first year of the war, the Germans ended up on a line that sort of goes roughly like that. They almost got to Moscow. And the next year, they came all the way down here and they got to Volgograd, which is Stalingrad, which is another battle where they lost another 1 million people. This is one of the sort of turning points of the war. But they also sent troops down into the Caucasus. They climbed the highest mountain in the Caucasus, at which point, you take a look at the distance between Berlin and the furthest advance of the Germans, and it turns out it's about halfway across America, which just gives you some. This is one of the most successful military campaigns, well, really ever. And that just puts it into perspective why fighting a war against America is basically impossible. You would need supply trains coming in or fleets worth of supplies coming in, and that would only get you halfway across America. America is basically uninvadable. The only people who maybe do it are Mexico, because it's easier for the supplies, or maybe Canada. Anyway, where's our woman and her? Always kind of bugs me the chest beating about patriotism, by people who have almost no knowledge of anything. All they want to do is, I guess, virtue signal off the blood of people who actually fought in these things. But if you're looking at absolute numbers, America is still on course, if you go for the Free America Now route, of losing more people to the virus than it did in World War II. So, go figure. Anyway, so that's the coronavirus update for May Day. Hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And Patreon links below if you're into that sort of thing. And thanks for watching.